Just remember these basics, very important to understand. Precision medicine. So physical maps were constructed using microsatellites or millisatellite markers, and then positional cloning helped in identifying the identification of genes that are responsible for diseases. So here is a timeline how the Human Genome Project has evolved. But anyway, I will send you the presentation, so this is only for academic interest. And then the techniques that are useful in coming to this stage, like development of polymerase chain reaction techniques, southern blotting techniques, sequencing technique, and so on. This also you will get as slides, so you can read about it. And then genetic testing, how it evolved, right from the identification of sickle cell disease to BCR-ABL gene that we will discuss now. So discovery of the BRCA genes as causative factors for breast cancer, till the next generation technique, and many diseases now are tested for the presence of genetic markers. So what is the difference between pharmacogenetics and pharmacogenomics? So we now know genetics deals with the single or small set of genes. Genomics, entire DNA content of the individual. The difference we know. And if it is associated with the study of effects of drugs, it will become pharmacogenetics and pharmacogenomics. Very simple definition. These other definitions, complex definitions, you will get 10 slides. But you only have to remember this much. So this is a nice picture which shows the difference between pharmacogenetics and genomics. Pharmacogenetics deals with single variants whose effects are large. They result in phenotype. Whereas pharmacogenomics deals with multiple variants, each with smaller effect. So many genes or many variants cause one phenotype. This can be studied by pharmacogenomics. Single genes which have dominant effect is studied in pharmacogenetics. Then on x-axis, it deals with single gene or small number of genes, it is pharmacogenetics. Complex biological pathways or whole genome, pharmacogenomics. Very simple.
Can you give me clear examples like pharmacogenetics?
Okay, we have Mendelian diseases, for example. The basis for Mendelian polymorphisms, and how do they affect in the assimilation of a drug or metabolization of a drug. Two things you have to remember is pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics. Good for pharmacy students now. Pharmacokinetics deals with the availability of the drug, how it is metabolized, how it is cleared from the body. Pharmacodynamics deals the interaction of this drug with the target, whether it is metabolizing enzyme or with an enzyme that is responsible for disease. These are the two aspects. So pharmacokinetic deals with absorption, distribution, metabolism and excretion of a drug, and pharmacodynamics deals with the targets which could be some receptors, ion channels, enzymes, or the immune system, which can also play an important role in efficacy of the drug. What change does it make? Here is an example. Nice for doctors. If you plot the relapse-free survival for a condition against years after randomization between two groups which are polymorphic. For example, there is a cytochrome P450 enzyme called CYP2D6. Wild type you say because there are no known polymorphisms in these individuals. And you take individuals with polymorphisms in CYP2D6. This is an example of survival against certain indication. Don't worry, it could be any indication. What change does it bring is there is a significant difference in the survival, right? Wild type survive better while the polymorphic less than what you see for wild type. This is just one example. Polymorphism affects survival advantage of treated patients. This is the underlying point which I would like to make. So you will see more of such graphs in the examples we deal with. How does it make? How does it impact survival? We will take the example of polymorphism in alcohol metabolizing enzymes. These are all the enzymes that are involved. ADH1A, 1B, 1C, ADH4, 5, 6, 7, blah, blah, blah. So many enzymes are involved in alcohol metabolism. Specifically the liver enzyme, nothing is utilized by these individuals, either because they were cleared off or they can't bind the enzyme appropriately with good affinity, or intermediate metabolizers which are good. They will keep the drug in bloodstream for good amount of time to be utilized well. So the example here is CYP2D6 polymorphisms. Before we took the example of alcohol metabolism, but here with acetylcholinesterase inhibitors. They affect how this drug acts either by metabolization or clearance in different cases, like here in Alzheimer's, where extensive metabolizers and intermediate metabolizers, cognitive function was improved significantly. While ultra metabolizers and poor metabolizers, you don't see any enhanced cognitive abilities. This is how polymorphisms influence the drug treatment. So, how is a drug metabolized? There are two phases. You call it phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is when, for example, a prodrug is converted to an active drug, or it is modified by oxidation or reduction or hydrolysis and so on. Whereas in phase 2, it is conjugated to certain carrier so that it is utilized properly and transported properly within the bloodstream. So the phase 1 reaction is called non-synthetic phase, and phase 2 is called synthetic because it is conjugated to certain intermediate molecules, right? Here is the example. So in phase 1, the drug is made more polar by these different chemical reactions. This is called functionalization, oxidation, reduction, hydrolysis and so on. Whereas in phase 2, compounds like glucuronyl sulfate, methyl, acetyl, glycyl, glutathione groups, they are all added to this drug. This is synthetic now. What happens to a drug is it will go to phase 1 and then to phase 2 and then whatever is utilized and then the remaining will be excreted. But some drugs can bypass phase 1 and directly enter phase 2 before cleared of the body. There are certain drugs such as poor metabolizers, they are directly excreted unchanged. So this slide also tells the same. What happens with metabolic rate in these different classes of individuals? The metabolism rate of any drug is slow in both poor metabolizers and intermediate metabolizer, and very fast in ultra rapid metabolizer and good in extensive metabolizer. The polymorphisms that result in intermediate and extensive metabolizers are the best because enough drug is available before it is classical medicine as it is practiced today, and targeted therapy in cancer is that these classic chemotherapeutics are the molecules that bind proteins that are normally present in all cells, all dividing cells. If you remember, a cell undergoes a cycle of events during division. You call it cell cycle. So cancer cells are cycling actively all the time with a rapid pace. These classic chemotherapeutics normally target actively cycling cells. This is the trick. Because of which they can kill cancer cells effectively. Because they are cycling all the time, they proliferate very fast. But the problem is there are other healthy cells which also cycle very well. For example, hair cells, that's why people undergoing chemotherapy lose hair. Because these cells are actively circulating. Stem cells are actively circulating. That is why you see a lot of side effects. Whereas targeted therapy is the one, like we saw the example of imatinib, goes and inhibit this enzyme that is responsible for the cancer. So you are killing only cancer cell, not the healthy cell. The side effects we don't say that won't be there, but are minimized. So that you almost see no side effects. So here are some examples. Classic is the difference between empiric therapy, which includes chemotherapy for cancer, and targeted therapy, where you use specific enzyme blockers. Here are some examples of classic chemotherapeutics and their targets. They target DNA synthesis or cytoskeleton. Here are different classes of them. There are alkylating agents, antimetabolites, antibiotics. Topoisomerase is the enzyme that is important for DNA replication, repair, and so on. So there are three different kinds of targeted therapy. The most important ones are small molecules with a molecular weight of not more than 500. And there are antibodies also, like we took an example for breast cancer and lung cancer. Let's go to specific examples now. Success stories. Chronic myeloid leukemia, as we have briefly discussed before, it is resulting from a reciprocal chromosomal translocation that causes the expression of a fusion protein BCR and ABL. Here is chromosome 9 where ABL is the gene that is present. Chromosome 22 BCR is the gene. There is a breakpoint here and here. So this piece will go and attach with this. So red part is BCR gene. Blue one ABL, fused together, a new gene is formed, which won't exist in normal cells. A new chromosome is formed and a new gene is also formed with a different kind of function. To talk about how it translates into protein. This is a wild type BCR-ABL protein. The protein has several domains, different parts. They fold and make different shapes, three-dimensional. So here is the catalytic kinase part of the ABL kinase, followed by a domain called SH3, followed by a domain called SH2, followed by a carboxy terminal domain. Just remember these different domains within a protein have different functions. Okay, here is the picture. The carboxy terminal tail will bind the catalytic part. You have N lobe and C lobe, and it will block its function. Another way of blocking its function is the SH3 and SH2 domains will fold over and blocks its kinase. So in a wild type c-ABL, as you see on the top left, is auto-inhibited. Its activity is inhibited by its own protein domains. Why? Because it is not needed at that point of time. When needed, the cell gets a signal, because of which certain part of it is phosphorylated or modified so that they are moved away. Compare this SH3, SH2 binding this, and here they are moved apart. And this carboxy terminal tail here is going over there. Because of which the activity is initiated. So I'm telling all this because so far we have talked about genetic level. Some changes are happening, but we must understand how these changes are translating into the function of a protein. The auto-inhibition is lost when activated, because of which the enzyme performs a function. This we are still talking about a wild type protein that is present in healthy cells. It looks like this. The cells start proliferating uncontrollably. This is what is leading to leukemia. Because it is happening in a myeloid cell, because this translocation or mutation leading to BCR-ABL protein is happening in a myeloid cell, the myeloid compartment is expanded, resulting in chronic myeloid leukemia. At a protein level, normal BCR-ABL is phosphorylated by ATP, and it in turn transfers a phosphate to a substrate molecule. This forms the basis to target BCR-ABL protein. You have a chemical molecule that looks like ATP. So instead of ATP, this chemical will go and bind the active site of the enzyme. Here the chemical is called imatinib. It is marketed as Gleevec, both in Europe or in USA. So it is called ATP competitive inhibitor, because it competes with ATP to bind the activation site, because of which it won't allow ATP to sit inside. So the activity of the protein is stopped. It can't phosphorylate its substrate. It can't activate the signaling pathways that are important for survival and proliferation of myeloid cells. What happens because of this? As you know, we know BCR-ABL is the protein that is important for the survival of the CML cells. And you are blocking with a chemical inhibitor. Because the cell is dependent on the activity of this protein and downstream signaling, when you block it with imatinib, the cell dies. This is targeted therapy. You are targeting the enzyme that is causative factor for the leukemia. You block its activity, you are killing the cell. This is a big revolution in cancer treatment. So I don't go much into the details. This is the imatinib that was first synthesized targeted agent, binds to the active site of the ABL protein. It makes several interactions with various amino acid side chains within the active site. So here I present the history of treatment of chronic myeloid leukemia, how it started. Initially the treatment was with arsenic, and in early 1900s started with sphenic irradiation, then after 1950s it shifted to sulfan, hydroxyurea, stem cell transplantation, either auto or allo transplantations, and more recently in 1970s and 80s with interferon alpha, which was also a bit successful. I will show how these different treatment modalities affected the survival of CML patients. And the advent of imatinib has changed the picture. This is the first targeted agent for CML treatment, but with the presence of secondary drug resistance, novel agents like dasatinib and nilotinib were developed later. These are second generation inhibitors of ABL kinase and were now approved for the CML treatment. So here are the results of targeted therapy. This is the survival curve for chemotherapy. Interferon therapy was not that bad. It improved the survival significantly, as you see the difference between these two. Here you see the beautiful curve from Gleevec, the imatinib treatment. The survival has increased enormously, and you can see now CML patients who are surviving for more than 20 years on imatinib treatment. This is the change personalized therapy has brought, especially for CML. It is remarkable, very significant. Then here is a comparison of again different treatment strategies. This on x-axis is the number of years of survival after diagnosis. Blue one is the busulfan. The survival has go down. Better was a bit hydroxyurea between 83 and 94. The pink one is for interferon and hydroxyurea combination, either alone or in combination between 86 and 94. Much better than busulfan. Then the green is for interferon together with